Guys, one more other video on the Inside Spurs show. Happy Thursday evening to you all. Obviously, talking about the game a little bit last night. Spurs exiting the Champions League. Not in the manner you would normally expect leaving a competition, but Spurs winning versus Atletico Madrid. I want to talk about really what happens from here. Okay, so we'll be talking about the game. Obviously, Forest right now, to give you an idea of what time it is as I've recorded this, Forest are at half-time in the Europa League. They're 1-0 up at the moment. Heavy rotation for Forest. Actually playing quite well. Having watched the first leg last time out, not as great. Heavy rotation, actually playing quite well. So we're talking about that game as well. But I really want to talk about last night because had it not been for a crazy 20-odd minutes in the first leg, we might be sitting here in a very, very different space. I saw some crazy stats about how Igor Tudor has got Spurs fitter. I know it sounds stupid, but just fitter. They're running more. They're running harder. They're working harder. And I know it sounds stupid, but half the time, as we all know, talent will only get you so far. Hard work outweighs it. And it shows. I think it seems to be now, like every week that goes by, it looks worse and worse for Thomas Frank. You know, Brentford are doing very, very well. You know, Frank was basically having our players lazy, not working hard, basically unfit. And now we're one of the hardest working teams in the league. And I think it's starting to show where you actually start to see you have seen the performances. Okay, they're not amazing, but they seem to have proved a lot. You know, Liverpool last weekend, you know, missing half a squad, getting a draw, probably should have won. Last night, beating Atletico Madrid, probably should have beat them by a few, to be honest. You know, it all stands out in a really good way for the sort of run towards the end of the season. It was the first time in a while that the fans, I think, at the stadium believed. And that, it's not saying the fans are crap. Please don't take it that way. As a fan, you pay money to be entertained. You pay money to see either good football or good results, or maybe even a bit of both, okay? And that was the first time in ages that I think those fans at that stadium believed. And they were like, do you know what? Even with obviously not going through, you could see the performance was there. You could see the effort was there. You know, seeing, you know, I genuinely thought, watching that game yesterday, I thought, actually great, another really good performance. I thought he's fantastic against Liverpool. Again, fantastic against Atletico Madrid. I thought Pape had another good game. I thought Matisse Tel, again, you know, coming away from all of this Tommy Frank, who never believed in Matisse Tel. Matisse Tel looks like the guy who, as he was misunderstood by Frank, is showing levels of extreme confidence, which, to be honest, is shocking for a squad that is doing as poorly as it has done. I thought Xavi Simons played very well. Obviously, scores a very good goal. I thought he played very well. You know, it was obviously... excuse me. Obviously, yes, we're missing still some players. But, you know, good to see Lucas Bergvall back. Good to see Desiree Doggy back. Obviously, Richarlison was back this weekend. He was suspended for the game. You know, I know Mickey will be gone, but Romero's back. You know, I even thought, you know, Radu Dragic was all right, to be fair. You know, and that's going to wind up some fans, because obviously some fans dislike Radu and whatever. I'm not doing this. I'm not defending anyone. Obviously, when he scores that hat-trick, limbs, all right, we will all celebrate. Doesn't matter if we lose 7-3, we will celebrate because it's a hat-trick, all right, we will be there. But no, I thought they played well, okay? I mean, some of the saves Vicario made were magnificent, absolutely magnificent. And, you know, like I said, barring 20 minutes in the first leg, had Vic probably played, we're probably sitting in a spot here going, wow, we just missed out, or, well, we're through. Okay, so it is what it is. Those things happen. But this is a launch pad. I really do believe this is a launch pad. I think you go now into a huge game this weekend against Nottingham Forest. Obviously, Forest playing right now as we speak. 1-0 up. I don't think they've kicked off yet. I think they're probably still at half-time by a few more minutes. I know it sounds stupid. They're playing away from home, and it's a day extra that we get. We're playing at home. We get an extra day's rest. I think it does make a difference. Yes, they've rotated. Absolutely, there's no denying they've rotated. And if they get a good result today with their rotation, they're buzzing. But also for us, the way we should look at it is, okay, cool. Yes, we've had to play some of our main guys against Atletico Madrid. They played well. We seem to have come out of the game without injury, and we've hit some form. I'm not saying a lot, and when you're down, sadly, where we're down, where we are, a point and a win in 2 games, it doesn't matter about what's happened before, is you hitting some form. Okay, that's how down bad we are. So down bad. Chat, are we back? No, I do look at this Forest game, and obviously, yes, it's 6 points. I'm not denying it's a 6-pointer game. It's a big game. You know, you win this and you're sitting there going, actually, yeah, we're looking all right again. Lose it, squeaky bum time, you know? But look, we're hitting some form. We're playing well. That's another key part to this. We are playing well. And it's just funny how, you know, you're talking about 4 days worth of time, things turn around. You know, having the Anfield game, having yesterday against Atletico Madrid, sitting there going, we're scoring goals again, which is nice. It's been a while since we were scoring. And do you know what? We're creating goals. That's even more scary. You know, we're actually creating opportunities, which we didn't do under Thomas Frank because he was too scared to get out of his own half. Yeah, it's a bit mental. But, you know, again, every week we seem to look at it. You know, you see the sort of non-substitute bench sitting next to the substitute bench, and you're sitting there going, that's a first team squad. That's a first team squad. And you're sort of going through, and there's so many first team squad players. And you start to look at it and go, hang on a second. Quite a few of those might be back in the next sort of 3 to 4 weeks. They're going to play a part in the end. You know, Kudus is probably going to play a part in the end. Bentancur, you know, playing a part in the end. Basuma's going to be back. You are going to have players back, whether you like them, loathe them, or anything in between, or love them and loathe them, and anything in between. You're going to have options again. And I think that's what Spurs have been crying out for, is just options, because it seems to be once we start to lose 3 or 4 players, we lose 8 or 9 more. So looking at it, I'm looking forward to Sunday versus Nottingham Forest. I'm not saying that we're all the way back. Not at all. I'm not a, you know, clickbaity YouTuber. What I would say is the pessimistic person will say, yes, but look where we still are. You know, maybe Atletico were more seeing out the leg because, you know, they thought they were already through. They were rattled, absolutely rattled. And again, like the first leg, those brothers were hitting the floor every other second trying to win fouls and kill the game, okay? And then they started lashing out because they were getting rattled. Take that energy, Spurs, that you have had for the last 2 games where you were willing to fight and scrap for every loose ball. You created opportunities. Use it. And I know it sounds stupid. I'm not the biggest Richarlison fan. I love Richarlison, the player with the attitude. Maybe, yes, I'm not the biggest fan of his actual ability. Obviously, he's a good player. I'm not denying that he's not a good player. That's the sort of attitude and energy you want for what we're going through. Everyone knows relegation battle, Everton, Richarlison form. It's one of the best strikers in the world. No wonder he was Brazil's number 9. Do it again. Do it again, you know. Obviously, we'll see what happens with Solanke and all that jazz. But I'll go into Sunday's game thinking we can win that. 2 weeks ago, I'd have gone into that game going, Jesus, I don't see the way. And now I'm seeing there is. I'm not saying there's a guarantee or anything, not whatsoever. But I do genuinely look at it and go, yeah, we could win that game. And it's funny what football does to a person. It's funny what 4 days can do to a person. So look, obviously, crap that we're out. Not in Europe next year as well. Don't forget that. Good performance. One of the best ones we've seen in a long, long time. Maybe nearly all season. It was a good performance yesterday. Build on it. Use it. Let's have Forest at the weekend. Let me know your thoughts down below. I'll speak to you all soon. Peace.